Well, hello there, and welcome to my almost midlife crisis, the show that dives into that tricky time in our lives when we're no longer young, but we aren't old yet either. I'm your host, Jennifer Villamil. Finding out you're pregnant, hopefully, is a really exciting time. But when you're older and your pregnancy is considered high risk, it honestly also comes with a whole set of concerns, especially if you've had a failed attempt in the past. A feeling of hesitancy is likely part of your journey at the beginning. In today's episode, we discuss the first trimester in a geriatric pregnancy because mentally, it does look a lot different than when you're pregnant in your 20s. I want to share my story for those of you that are trying to conceive or that have experienced the first trimester over the age of 35. Let's dive in. In episode 2, Pregnant at 39, I talked about how back in November I had a chemical pregnancy where I had a positive test and then a couple days later started spotting and I got my period. Even though it was only a couple of days, it was heartbreaking to get so excited to only be let down shortly after. It's so easy to jump into planning and talking about this little person that could develop in you right when you get to that positive test, especially as a first time parent. You just jump right in. Like you can't wait to start thinking about it. But after you've had a failed attempt and feel that heartbreak, the next time you get a positive test result, you're naturally going to be more cautious. Now, while I was late starting my period, I had had an irregular period my last cycle and had some slight spotting a couple days earlier. So I thought, you know what? It's probably just another irregular period. Because that's the thing. And I'm not going to get all political, but these laws about the 6-week abortion, it takes weeks to even get a positive test result. And if you have irregular periods, which is a lot of women, there's a good chance you may not even know you're pregnant until 6 weeks. So that would make it impossible to even have a chance to make a decision in time. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to get political, I'm just stating a fact. But as I became a couple more days late, I took the last pregnancy test that I happened to have sitting around the house. We had a party the following day at a friend's house. And honestly, I just wanted to know if I should drink or not. But I really was not expecting a positive pregnancy test. So Christian was getting ready for work. And when he came out of the bathroom, there was no fun little scavenger hunt game like the first go around. I didn't plan anything special. I just simply held up the pregnancy test and said, I think I'm pregnant. Question mark for him. And Christian, well, he smiled and he hugged me, but he also said, do you think it's going to stick this time? And this was my exact thought when I told him. And honestly, I didn't know. I hoped so, obviously, but I was scared to get too excited just in case. And it looked like I wasn't the only one. So we agreed to play it safe and assume it was going to stick and just retest in a couple of days. So I went to Benny's Liquor Depot, which is our local kind of large liquor store. And I found a non-alcoholic sparkling wine, which, by the way, is not great to bring to the party. So everyone thought I'd be drinking and we could just keep it on the down low in case the same thing happened as last time. And if you're a wine drinker like I am, please know that non-alcoholic wine sucks. I'm sorry. It just does. It does. Prove me wrong, please. I would love for you to prove me wrong. But unless you like Moscato, which also, if you like Moscato and you're over the age of 30, I'm sorry, but I am judging you really hard. Moscato is disgusting. I don't even think it should be considered wine. Or if you like Meiomi, because they add sugar in their wine, right? They actually add sugar to make it sweeter. So gross. I'm sorry. Both are disgusting options. And I really like dry wine, really dry. So sweet is it's not my jam. And so far I've tried multiple different brands of non-alcoholic wine with no luck. I cannot find an equivalent of dry wine that doesn't just taste like juice. I even had one that had a tea mixture. And so I was like, oh, this won't be as sweet. And it wasn't. but it left this really bad aftertaste. So if you have a different option, please leave it in the comments and send the reco my way. But I guarantee I've tried a lot of them already. So the day after the party, I took another test and it was again positive. So then 2 days later from that, I happened to just have a doctor's appointment that was previously scheduled because I've had lower back issues since July 2020, thanks to working from home on dining room chairs during COVID. So thanks for that. But while I was there, I was like, you know what? Can I just get a blood test and just to see? So I received the results the next day, and it was positive. So by then, I had missed the whole period as well. So unlike last time, which, I was only a couple days late, we took that as a sign that I was actually pregnant this time. And we started to get a little bit of hope. So, so far in my life, I will say I have not experienced a wait time that was more excruciatingly painful than the 4 weeks between having a positive pregnancy test and going to your first prenatal appointment. That is something that I feel like they don't tell you when you become pregnant. Like, I always thought that you get a positive test and then you immediately go to the doctor and they confirm that you're pregnant. That's not the case. You call the doctor and you say, I got a positive test. And they're like, okay, let's book something at 8 to 9 weeks from when you conceived. And you're like, wait, what? That's like 4 weeks before I even see a doctor for the first time. It's like crazy. I did not realize that was the case. And on one side, I was desperate to hear a doctor confirm that not only I was pregnant, even though I had a blood test already, but I just wanted a doctor to look at me and say, you're pregnant, but also that things look normal. I just wanted that ultrasound to confirm that things look good, especially because early on, like, you can't feel anything. You can't feel the embryo or whatnot. So it almost just doesn't even feel real. Well, that is except for the side effects. Because some women are very lucky and they don't have any symptoms early in their pregnancy. And that's awesome for them. And if you're one of them, congratulations. But that is not my experience. I had all the symptoms, like, except the sore boobs. I never really got the sore boobs. I got a little bit of like sore nips, but like that was it. But if you read an article about the first trimester symptoms, I could pretty much check almost every box. So there was fatigue, like crazy fatigue that hits at any time. Like 1 minute you're feeling fine, or at least you aren't tired. Maybe you're not feeling everything great, but you're not tired. And then the next, you physically cannot keep your eyes open. Like it takes effort and it seems impossible. It's like your body is a car that just ran out of gas and you're trying to push it to the gas station. I had nausea pretty much unless I was eating, period. I had terrible nausea. So I was eating almost nonstop to avoid the feeling because I hate feeling nauseous. Pregnant or not, that's one of my least favorite symptoms. It is so debilitating. And then I had constipation, which maybe is TMI, but and actually, I would say that this is my least favorite symptom because I'm very lucky where this really isn't something I normally have to deal with on a regular basis. So I have no cures for this or any experience dealing with it. I was so constipated that I was having like stomach pain. And any stomach pain while you're pregnant is pretty much terrifying and just adds to the anxiety, especially during those initial weeks. Oh, and did I mention that Christian had to leave for 2 weeks, 3 days after my positive blood test? Yeah. He's getting his MBA program. And as part of that, he had a class in Tel Aviv, Israel. So I had my blood test on Tuesday and then he left that Friday. So picture this. It's too early to really tell anyone you're pregnant because you're 39 years old. And my chances of a miscarriage are over 30%. And you feel like complete shit and you're totally alone at home. And to that, I had just started a new job, which was video on culture all the time. So I constantly had to be on camera and I was still in winter here in Chicago. So it was too cold to even like go outside for walks. I was miserable and I felt horrible and isolated and honestly just lonely. Like there was a 3-day stretch where I didn't even shower. Like I went into pure survival mode, like eat, try to use the bathroom and sleep. And that was it. And I pretty much traveled from bed to couch to bathroom. That's it. I had zero energy to cook anything healthy. So I was eating whatever was quick, which means I wasn't eating super healthy, which probably contributed to my constipation hindsight. And I had called the doctor finally because I just couldn't take it. And they approved to use Mylanta. So I took like the most minimal amount, hoping that, you know what, maybe this is going to help relieve some of that pressure. However, the night that Christian left, the pain from my constipation was so bad that I actually got really scared around like 11 p.m. And I called one of my best friends and asked her to come over. And I didn't know if I had to go to the hospital. And I could walk to the hospital. It's very close to where we live. So if I had to go, I didn't even know if I could get there myself, but I knew that I didn't want to be alone. And thankfully, I did not have to go to the doctor. And after morning, TMI, a bout of like diarrhea and vomiting, I felt better. I don't think I'm ever going to take Mylanta ever again, by the way. That was a horrible experience. But I felt better. And this is how pretty much she found out I was pregnant. And her boyfriend also found out because when you live with your significant other, you kind of have to tell them why you're leaving the house at 11 p.m. and why you aren't going to be coming home that night. You can't really get away with just like, I can't tell you. So after trying Mylanta and milk of magnesia and finally Colace, I was able to get my constipation under control. And I couldn't go without supplements at all. Like I had to take something every day, but at least with the help of modern medicine, I was becoming somewhat regular again, and the bloating and the pain was becoming manageable. It wasn't gone, but it was at least like manageable. So for the next couple of weeks leading up to my first prenatal appointment, I survived. I think that's the best way to describe it. I survived. I ate more small meals, had smoothies every morning that actually seemed to help and make me feel better. And I never left the house without a snack like ready to go to control the nausea. In fact, I was even like at the grocery store shopping one time and I just was like eating at the cashier and I was like, listen, like I'm pregnant. Like this is what's happening right now. Like I'll pay for it, but I couldn't wait to buy it. So finally at 9 weeks, the time had come for the first appointment. I was so excited. So the big difference when you have a geriatric pregnancy is just the amount of prenatal testing and how early this testing actually begins. Because the reality is, as a woman and pregnant for the first time at 39 years old, I am considered high risk. High risk for miscarriage, for birth defects, for complications, and not just high risk for my baby's health, but actually for my own. So at the 9-week appointment, the genetic testing begins. And it's so crazy how science works nowadays. Like I had some blood drawn and then bam, like we could find out the risk level of our little embryo having a genetic disorder. And we could find out the gender actually. So like super early. So first they test me. And then if I'm a carrier, they test Christian because both of us actually have to be carriers for it to be an issue. So before we received the results, which took a little over a week, we still held off from really telling our families and our friends in the event that there were any potential genetic defects. Because I'm going to be honest, I admire parents for being willing to go through with a pregnancy no matter the situation. And this is probably going to be controversial, but I am not one of those people. Like, while we cannot predict with 100% guarantee that our children won't have any disabilities, with modern day science, we can get a pretty good read. And I honestly don't know if I could go through with a pregnancy if I found out there was this like high probability that our child would have some severe genetic defect that would prevent them from living a healthy, normal life. And I know that sounds really harsh, But life is hard enough as it is. And to me, one of the benefits of having a child later in life is to be in a place where in our lives, where we can help set our kids up for success. Like, we're financially stable, we have finished our education, we are far enough along in our careers that we have more flexibility. And all of this gives the child we choose to bring into this world the opportunity to never be in need. And whether that's in need of a quality education, in healthcare, or opportunities to learn and grow through life experiences. And it may sound irresponsible to not continue on with a pregnancy that has a high potential for health issues of a child, but I look at it as actually the responsible route. This child didn't ask to be brought into the world, and I don't believe there is any greater responsibility than raising a child. Like, that is the top number one responsibility in life. And it is our job as parents to raise a good human being, a human that's going to bring value to her community and to those around her. And I believe every decision we make is in service of giving her a life of endless possibilities. And if that's the case, then going in knowing that she could be severely limited isn't an option to me. And I may lose listeners for that, but I firmly believe that it's a personal choice and that every parent, and I'm not saying it's an easy one, but it's a choice that every parent has to make, because the magnitude of the responsibility of being a parent, we need to truly look ourselves in the mirror and know that we are ready and willing to take on whatever comes our way. And I don't believe enough people take it as seriously as they should, actually. So thankfully, not only did our first round of genetic testing, yes, because there are multiple rounds. I think there's like 3 or 4 to be exact. But our first round passed with flying colors. My doctor actually said that I am a carrier of nothing, no genetic defects at all, which she said is rare. So now I don't know how rare it is, but if she just wanted to make me feel good, it definitely worked, because I pretty much felt like a superhero after she told me that. And she also informed us that we were having a little girl. And we were so sure that we were having a boy. Actually, we thought there was going to be potentially twins, which when I got the blood test at my doctor's, I asked for the hormone levels just because, I don't know, I'm a dork that sometimes likes looking at the data. And I asked for hormone levels and they were high for me only being 5 weeks along. And so I went down the Google rabbit hole, which you have to be really careful with that when you're pregnant. But I went onto Google, and the answers for why my HCG levels could be that high was likely multiples, or so it said, which, oh my God, can you imagine? I mean, whatever is meant to be, fine. But having one seems like a life changer. I cannot imagine having more than one at the same time. And for those of you that do it, honestly, you are amazing. And I have so much respect for you. But for us, that is terrifying. So, no twins. In fact, we've now asked multiple times in different appointments, like just to make sure, like every time there's an ultrasound, we're like, just one, right? There's still just one in there. But it's a girl. And we thought we were having a boy because for the last couple of years, Christian's grandmother, she reads palms, and she read my palm a couple times and said that we would have one child and it would be a boy. So maybe she was wrong on this one point, but she was actually right on a lot of other things. So we just figured that this one was also correct. We'd even started coming up with some boy names prior to getting the news. Like, that's how sure we were. But we couldn't be happier that we're having a girl. And personally, I'm a little extra excited that we're having a girl because selfishly, I think it would be easier for me to relate. And also, I'm honestly just so excited for Christian to be a girl dad and for her to have us as parents. And still today, there are many boys that are taught to get educated and be successful, where girls are taught to get married and have kids. And I know I felt this pressure growing up myself. Like, I've always felt that My parents, they were proud of me, but they believed that my career was just biding time until I prioritized what like really mattered, which was starting a family. And how could I not believe that this is what they thought when I was hearing comments like, I'm so proud of your promotion, but when you get married, you won't have to work. Like, what world are you living in? Or them being more excited about me dating a man than like getting a new job. I was being asked in my late 20s, like, when are you going to have a kid? Like, I don't know. Maybe I should get a boyfriend first, was like usually my answer. Like, I like to do one before the other. Maybe that's traditional of me, but like, preferably, I'd like to not do it myself if I could avoid it. And when I met Christian and things were getting serious, oh my God, the pressure was on. I was constantly being asked by my entire family, like, when are you moving in together? When are you getting married? When are you going to start a family? And then, like, why weren't these things happening yet? Like, why haven't you moved in yet? Why haven't you gotten engaged yet? Why aren't you married yet? Like, what's wrong with your relationship that this hasn't happened? And, in fact, when Christian asked me to move in with him, my brother's response was, oh, like, I honestly didn't think that was ever going to happen. Like, gee, thanks. So Christian and I have been together for over 10 years now. So that's almost 10 years of questions and pressure that honestly at times really messed with my head. Like sometimes it made me question my own relationship and assume something actually was wrong, when in reality, I had one of the healthiest relationships out of people I knew. So we both come from divorced parents. And, in just my extended family, I have enough divorces to really set a clear example that love isn't always enough. So, why did I let these same people get under my skin about my relationship? Like, they're clearly not the experts. This this little girl though, she's never going to feel that pressure. We will never expect her to prioritize marriage and kids above education or whatever her goals are in life. She's going to have two parents that fully support her path and witness our relationship, which is a 50-50 partnership, which is going to help set expectations for her future relationships with men, women, or whoever she may choose. And you know what? Her value doesn't lie in her ability to procreate. Her value lies in her heart and in her mind. And Christian and I couldn't be more excited to support her on her journey. And maybe that's to be a stay-at-home mom if that's what she chooses. Or maybe it's to be the next female president of the United States, because you know what? God help us if in 50 years we still haven't had our first. But, no pressure on her, only if she chooses. But after that first round of testing came out successful, we finally felt comfortable to openly tell family and friends that we were expecting. And for me, this is when it finally started like becoming real, and I finally started enjoying the process. Like, I was feeling better, which definitely helped. But sharing in the joy we had with those we love was the best part to date. And you better believe our parents were overjoyed. Like Christian's parents will be first-time grandparents, so they were over the moon. And my parents already have 3 wonderful grandkids, but they were so excited to have my first, and there was still lots of tears of joy reserved for mine. So my dad started immediately asking me about my next kid. Like, I mean, I definitely had to put the kibosh on that convo really quick because we're only planning on having one. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I could even have one. And I definitely wasn't sure if I could have one without some sort of medical support at my age. So we were just so thankful that we had this little miracle happen. Like so far, knock on wood, I don't really have any around me, but knock on wood, so far, it's been healthy and on track. So let's not push it. And I will say I already had multiple people tell me like, oh, you're going to change your mind. You're going to have more. Like, excuse me? Like, who do you think you are? The one thing that has become blatantly obvious to me since I've become pregnant is just the sheer audacity of others. Like, why is it that when you become pregnant, people feel like it gives them the right to say whatever they want to you and to touch you without asking? And when you express your disdain for this, like the response is like, well, that's normal. Like that's just how it is. No, I'm sorry. I don't accept that. How about I feel lucky at 39 that I was able to get pregnant naturally and pretty quickly with only 6 months of trying. Like I know far too many women my age that didn't have that same luck. So to start adding the pressure of a second child before we've even birthed the first one is absurd. And honestly, it's risky because we don't know if this one is going to go smoothly. I mean, I hope so. Or just because I have this one naturally doesn't mean that I can do it again or do it again safely. So why put this pressure on? Like, let's just enjoy this one. Let's enjoy this process and let's not worry about the next, if there's going to be a next. I even had a daycare owner because yes, it might be early, but listen, we live in Chicago and like daycares have wait lists. So, and we have two that are right next to our house and we didn't want to like have to go further to go to one. So we went on a couple daycare tours and I had a daycare owner tell me with all the confidence in the world that I'm going to change my mind, that I will have a second. And she knows because she did. Like, okay, party of one. Like, I'm happy for you that you had multiple children. I really am because you wanted them, because you wanted them. But you know nothing about me. And it's none of your damn business how many I want, nor is it your place to tell me how many I want. So I don't know. Or or what I want currently. It took me 35 years to even decide I wanted a child. So I don't know if I'm ever going to change my mind. But if I do, it's our choice to make. And it isn't because you know us better than we know ourselves. So just please stop projecting your decisions onto us. Thanks so much. By the way, thanks so much is my passive aggressive way of saying F you. So, with each doctor's appointment and round of testing, our confidence and our excitement grow. Because being older and pregnant, I continue to have worries and I'm being cautious because of my risk factor. Like, I barely have coffee, only here and there. And I know that it's technically probably okay, but I still stay away from it. I don't drink at all. I've had like a sip of wine a couple times just to try it, but that's it. I'm wearing my mask in crowded places just in case, and I'm taking all of the precautions to do whatever is in my power to continue having a healthy little girl. I don't think I'm going to stop taking my age and risk factor into account until she arrives and a doctor tells us that she's healthy. But I do know one thing. We have traveled all around the world. We have had adventures on multiple continents, but we are just now starting the adventure of our lifetime. This little girl is going to change our lives and for the better. She's already started. Both of us have always been the type of people that are striving to be our best selves. We're goal setters and we're constantly pushing ourselves to improve. But before her, our motivation was selfish. It was just for us. And now, for the first time, we have a much deeper obligation to be our best selves for her, to lead by example. It's a whole new sense of responsibility that at times is intimidating, but it's mostly empowering. So let's go on this journey together. Hopefully, it's filled with more tears of happiness than sadness. But either way, we're going to do it together. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Join me on my social channels to get more content and inspiration. You can follow my Almost Midlife Crisis on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can also check out the rest of my YouTube channel with videos of the episodes and shorts to keep you entertained all week. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you're always up to date on the latest episodes, and sign up to get the written transcripts in case you're sick of hearing my voice delivered right to your inbox at myalmostmidlifecrisis.com. Thanks, and until next time.